What do I say? What can I say? I don't know what to say. There's been a lot of things that has gone on in my life as of late, and safe to say that has led to some pretty major life changes. And as a result, I've been out here in rural Japan for almost a month now, and there's been ample time to think and reflect and recalibrate and reset on a lot of really important things that I haven't given myself the space or allowed myself to fully feel or work through up until actually being here and being separated from everything. But I think there is something to voluntarily separating yourself from things that you believe are causing some kind of disturbance in your life. Not to say that we can ever hope to get away from all of the potential problems or worries that we have, but to give ourselves a little bit of insight, to give ourselves a little bit of momentary clarity to see the source of said waves of disturbance, to take a breath and to get a fresh perspective. That is a process of renewal, of a kind of rebirth to an extent. And that can go for physical, spiritual, or emotional things as well. It's not just related to the body and the things that we interact with on a material basis in our world. I've come out here to engage in a certain kind of solitude, a kind of fasting of people and places that I've let cause ripples in my life. And the cause of those ripples has actually been one of an internal nature, one that is based in my own sense of particular insecurities or emotional unavailability or otherwise things that I need to work on within myself. And this time away has been great, has been phenomenal, has been probably the best thing that I could do in this regard to start to receive this kind of clarity of the origin of these ripples, of these things that may seem as though they have come from other people. But in reality, the only ripples that are caused in our lives fundamentally start with us, start with the perspective that we hold on whatever the thing may be. The stories we choose to generate around the things that happen in our lives is probably the most important thing when it comes to the kind of life that we experience and the kind of time that we have. The stories we make define us, and that decision is very important to go about realizing the kind of person that we are. Whether these stories have added extra layers to the deep down core self we feel ourselves to be, or they've been a practice of being able to remove those layers and being able to present a more authentic and genuine version of ourselves that we may not have been able to previously express in that same kind of way. The point is that these stories have power, and that these stories fundamentally are our subjective experience of the world, of reality as a whole. And it may sound simplistic, but if we're able to take control of those stories, then we're essentially able to take control of our reality, of the life that we're living, of the things that happen to us, and the things that we choose to do. Sometimes this might be to do something that might seem radical or extreme or maybe even ridiculous. And it can also be the times where something might be subtle or almost insignificant. But each of these steps, no matter the size, all of them go towards the life that we're living. All of them go towards the kind of person that we're figuring ourselves out to be. Something that I've realized since being here is I want to start saying self-discovery instead of self-improvement in the context of personal development. And it may seem that that's just kind of an unnecessary semantic difference, but there is a fair amount of nuance here that I'd like to touch on briefly. Self-improvement is a phenomenal idea, and I would say probably the first stepping stone in this journey of self-discovery ultimately in the broader context of personal development. However, the defining difference between these two phases is the motivations behind our actions, why we decide to do the things that we end up doing. The term self-improvement has this kind of underlying assumption that the self needs to improve because the self currently is not good enough. And we're not talking about a particular skill set, but as the entity that we are at the deepest level. This idea, I think, of not being good enough on that level is where certain feelings of inferiority turn into inferiority complexes. It's no longer about what we're doing in the world, but it's about us. Whereas the term self-discovery, I feel, is a lot more aligned with the kind of process that we should be taking in a healthy way. It's not implying that we're currently not good enough, but it might just be implying that there's a bit of digging to do, a bit of work to figure things out a little bit further. And yes, there is a whole lot more nuance and distinction that goes into defining the difference between those two kind of terms and those two kind of ideals. But I'm going to leave it at that for now and get into it more properly another time. There is so much more that I can say from this last few weeks that is so difficult to try to fit into a single video. So, I won't try and do that. I will do my best to break these up into different topics, into different things, and hopefully I can do my best to capture all of those things, all of the things that I've been finding to be really helpful and really useful and be really important realizations for myself. And I've still got a couple more months to go of this as well, so I'm very excited. I don't know whether I'll end up posting these or whether I'll just leave them for myself and have them as the record of my time here. Either way, I do think it's important to catalog certain important thoughts. That's why I've been journaling like a maniac, and I've been now starting to read quite a lot. Both of these habits I think are really important for this process of self-discovery and for this process of uncovering certain aspects about ourselves that we might not necessarily want to look at or not want to work on. But through doing this, there are certain realizations that are genuinely life-changing.